Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a guide on how to play the Revenant in Elden Ring Nightreign. This character is based on the faith and intelligence skills, and they are able to summon in Helen, Frederick, and Sebastian here to help out in combat. I'll be showing you the best areas to use each of these heroes, as well as spells to get and different weapons to look out for. This character is heavily reliant on Starlight Shards, so make sure that you buy them from merchants at the start and right before you fight the final boss, as you're going to run out of your FP quicker than the Recluse. So with this character, we want to look for specific weapons, anything that's going to scale off of faith. And you can see here, we have an S scaling in our faith, B in arcane, and B in intelligence. So we're not really great with any weapons other than the coated sword. So you may as well just grab whatever's best available. Bows will also work very well too. So on the lookout when you're playing through the day, look for those weapons, as there's no preference in terms of what weapon she uses best. As mentioned, the best weapon for us is the coated sword with that S scaling in faith. But we could also go with the Sword of Night and Flame, which also scales off intelligence and faith and gives you two different elemental damage types between fire and magic. They both do the same amount of damage to any normal target that doesn't have any resistances, so use the one that the target resists the least. Another good sword to go for is Blasphemous Blade. This is better for strength scaling, but it does scale off of faith and it can restore your health. I also highly recommend finding the Anspur Rapier if you can. I've actually found this on quite a few runs, you'll see later on. It has S scaling dexterity, however, it also applies Scarlet Rot, which a lot of bosses can actually take damage from. And since we're not going to be heavy in our scaling skills, it's best to use any type of status that we can apply, so Bleed, Scarlet Rot, or even Frostbite with the Frozen Needle. Again, another S scaling dexterity, but a great weapon for us. The Eclipse Shuttle is another good weapon, as it does do a little extra damage after applying the weapon skill. And Moonveil is not a bad choice for us either due to the intelligence scaling, but it does have a great weapon art. So any of these weapons that have great weapon arts that your other teammates wouldn't prefer having, I would recommend grabbing. Any of the healing spells can be nice. I don't like the slow heal, so Urgent Heal or Lord's Heal here are two solid choices to go with. As well, we can also use the Lightning Spear, as this is a spell that we can, or incantation we can find very easily. Great against the Augur boss, which is weak to this, but also against the Dark Drift Knight. Black Flame being another incantation that works very well for us. And I also like to have the Bestial spell, so Bestial Sling probably being the best one, giving you a bit of range there. As they do physical damage, it's kind of nice to have. We also, if we're able to find the Madness spells when we go against Libra, this is a massive benefit for us as well. And the Rot Breath is also good, but if we need fire or frost damage, those are two other, or magic damage, we can get one of these breaths, the Rot and Breath being the absolute best. Now, as for spells, there's a few that we could use because we do have intelligence scaling. So like Spiral Shard's nice for large enemies or rips through them. And Comet Azure usually is a good spell, but in this game, Stars of Ruin is a little bit better. Or if you go with like the Crystal Barrage or Crystal Burst attacks and spam them, as I find that they're a bit more FP friendly. And with our weapon that we start with, the Revenant's Cursed Claws, this actually isn't a claw weapon, it's a fist weapon. So if you right click your stick, you'll be able to see. It's also got the White Shadow's Lure, which draws aggression. Don't really recommend using this too often. However, when you first start in, make sure you two-hand this weapon, because it's going to allow you to do this double attack, which does give you a pretty significant boost to your amount of damage you're able to deal with this. And the starting finger seal that you get is not really that powerful, so this is the way to do it early game. The Revenant's loot pool is quite diverse, so you will be finding you get weapons that aren't perfect for the situation, but you got to use what you got. I find that if you can find any status-based weapons, those are honestly the best to roll with. So like the Anspur Rapier there, being able to apply Scarlet Rot gives you a lot of damage. Now, one of the first things when you drop in, if you can find these huts, these are a great way to get finger seals early on in the game, and you can sometimes find a very useful spell like a Lightning Spear if you're going against the Augur boss, which can be very useful while you're going through the game. So that is one of the first stops. Second is anytime you find a merchant, buy out their Starlight Shards. As mentioned, you're going to run out of them really quickly, as well as your FP, so always boost that up as well. That is the biggest thing once you get to the final boss, is running out of FP means you have to get in close range, and we're very squishy, so that's not something that we want to do. But it's all about getting good planning on in the early games to make sure that you go and visit all the different dungeons available so that you can take out the bosses, get yourself some loot. And I would recommend upgrading one of the spells that you find you work best with. So in this run here, I need a Lightning Spear for the final boss, so I just rolled with this finger seal that I found pretty early on in the game. Now, you do have a really great revive. That's one of the best parts about Revenant's kit, is the revive is crazy. So the claws are good too, because you can two-hand them and you can attack really quickly, but if your teammates go down, your ultimate will also revive them. You can also get a relic that'll add Ghost Flame to that, so you can burst out and do damage. You can also get a relic that's going to heal your teammates whenever they get back up, so they get full health whenever you recover them. So you actually have quite a few different abilities with your ultimate. It also makes your team invulnerable. You can see here, I found the Carrion Regal Scepter. Sometimes you get hit with RNG, and like, I wasn't the best at it. Like, that'd be a better weapon for the Duchess or obviously the Recluse, but I just roll with it because that was what I got. And sometimes you need to use what you get. For boss fights here, I recommend having Frederick, the large one here, to be able to deal a bit of stagger damage, and they're pretty decent at pulling aggro. You can also use Sebastian, as he has a large area of effect, and his roar attack will actually revive you if you go down. But for the most part, you want to be sticking away from the boss and letting your Frederick or Sebastian do the fighting. Helen is also extremely useful in faster boss fights, like if you're going against Tricephalos. Helen can be pretty useful because they can get up really close and do attacks that close the gap, because there's a lot of fast bosses in Nightreign. And again, know the elements that you're going against. So for example, this boss here, weak to fire, I just use Whirl of Flame. As I mentioned earlier, it's a very powerful skill because you can just continually spam it, and the damage potential from it is quite nuts. But honestly, again, you got to use what you got. So I have the Serpent Hunter here. I use the magic empowerment on it, and that was something I had to roll with in the early game because it was the only weapon that I had that would actually do decent damage. So that's one of the downsides, is sometimes you do get screwed over by your RNG and you don't have much luck. So yeah, I would recommend, as I said previously, status weapons. Like the Tree Sentinel here, we were able to Scarlet Rot and poison it. So even at worst, if we need to play a bit more defensively, we're always going to be dealing damage over time. Bleed weapons are other good choices, as well as Frostbite, because you can't do a whole lot of damage with your weapons, but you can use their very powerful skills and also statuses to do quite a bit of damage. But you can see there, Frederick went down pretty quick and easily, unfortunately there. Always summon back in another one as soon as possible, because you want to have at least one out there to help draw aggro from your other teammates so that they can deal damage. This team composition, I had 2 Iron Eye there, so we were all range based. We were able to get the win because there's some skills that make this game a lot easier if you're able to find them. So I was able to get the Godric's Fist here, and this leaves an area of fire around, and it deals damage as well. So that was a pretty useful ability to grab, especially if you have a team that's able to stagger the bosses often, because then you can just leave this damaging area of effect on the ground. And this is actually what ended up carrying us to the end of the Libra fight, which we'll see a little bit later on. Some of the hardest fights are like the Valiant Gargoyle, because they resist all of our magic, so I had to use a strong bow there. Bows are another really useful weapon to look for, since you don't always have options for magic and any type of FP-based spell casting. But you can see there, it actually has a good stagger with Frederick out as well, so yeah, bows are another good one. I'd recommend finding crossbows, since they don't scale off anything. Crossbows are probably her best weapon if you can find them, but obviously being able to spell cast is the most essential part of her kit. And you can see there, head Sebastian there, if we end up going down, he can also revive you. Always look for the increased sorceries and incantations. That's going to be one of the best dormant powers that you can find for your character. So I have Bleed and Lightning Claws here as well, because we were going against a lightning boss. So any type of elemental damage that you can get on a melee weapon is going to be fine. Claws are kind of her best weapon, because a lot of them are going to apply bleed as well, so that's a nice way that you can actually contribute some extra damage, since you're not going to be attacking as strong as a raider or a wilder. So yeah, spellcast and find the weapons with statuses. I also was able to luckily find Moonveil Katana here, which again isn't the perfect scaling for us, but it has a very useful weapon art, so that was something that I could use when I was done slinging my lightning spears. But lightning spear spam is honestly a pretty good strategy against a lot of bosses that are weak to it. Now, against the Gladius boss fight here, Tricephalos, I would recommend, I had a Holy Mace. It wasn't the best RNG on this run, but I had a Lightning spell as well, so that was the best damage that I had, because all I could find was fire spells, and this boss is strong against fire. I also luckily got this weapon, which does drain your FP. It's actually best with a Recluse, so I actually if you get this item, I've given it to a Recluse before, because they're going to make better use of that staff than we will be, so it's honestly best just to focus on the faith-based skills if you have another spellcaster on your team, and you can kind of spread the items. I find if you get a good team, they're able to swap items around. But 2-bar revives, one thing that we do want to do is not use our skill until it's at least 2 or 3. I seen that we were really close to winning this fight, so I thought I may as well do it while I had Sebastian up, because he has that beam attack after you activate your ultimate. It was able to take down the boss really easily. Now, Libra Creature of the Night. This fight was a little bit challenging because it's really quick, and I had 2 archers with me, so we had to play a little bit differently. This boss does move around quite a bit, so as long as you're kiting it, it works fine. But I was luckily able to find the Godric Dragon Fist there, which had a really useful skill on it, which dealt again that damage over time. And I was able to find Madness on walking. So this boss is weak to madness. You got to use what you're given sometimes, and that was another skill that made this a little bit easier. But the damage over time on that made this fight so much easier. We were able to take down Libra without much worry. I was actually scared when I loaded into this game with 2 Iron Eyes, but It was enough because they were able to provide the stagger. And against the Augur boss fight, this is another fight that I was kind of worried about, but it ended up going more than fine because the lightning damage from the lightning grease that I was able to find, and I had a lightning weapon, made this a lot easier. But the lightning spear spell, obviously use whatever the boss is going to be weak to, and it'll make the fight so much easier. So that is the ultimate guide on how to play the Revenant. If you got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button if you found this video useful, and I'll see you all in the next video.